Hey guys, and welcome to another World of Warcraft video. So today we're going to take a look at the entire process of acquiring Fyr'Alath the Dreamrender, which is the relatively new legendary that can be acquired in the Guardians of the Dream patch. Now the process actually starts by killing Fyr'Alath, who is the end boss of the latest raid, Yggdrasil the Dream's Hope. After the first mythic Fyr'Alath kill, the item became available to drop on all difficulties. To help increase the boost rate, a form of bad luck protection has been set up. So you can actually acquire usable items that'll increase your chance of having the legendary drop in your personal loot. These are the Greater Embers of Fyr'Alath, which have a guaranteed drop from Fyr'Alath on all difficulties, and the Lesser Embers of Fyr'Alath, which can drop from all bosses but Fyr'Alath on Heroic and Mythic difficulty. Now, I actually killed Fyr'Alath on LFR, Normal and Heroic once Fyr'Alath started dropping, every single week. It still took quite a bit of time. In total, I acquired 16 Greater Embers of Fyr'Alath and 6 Lesser Embers of Fyr'Alath before the legendary actually dropped. Divided, this was spread out across 4 LFR kills, 6 normal kills and 6 heroic kills. Now, the legendary item will actually drop from Fyr'Alath, but upon equipping it, you're engulfed in Shadow Flame and you will drop the weapon at 20% health or so. After that, the item becomes a quest item, which will take you to the Azerothian Vaults in Thaldraszus. Once you're there, you'll meet Edward Dallingrigi, who's a bit of a glitchy fella, but he also has some ideas about how you can make the weapon wieldable. Now, Rathian and Embertel, who just happen to be nearby, they voice their concerns, but eventually sort of approve. So a trio of quests are then given out, each with their own task of making this weapon usable, and they're all linked to a specific profession. So one requires us to create a fireproof hide that can handle intense heat, which is the Leatherworking quest. Another one that will require us to create an enchanted vellum that can contain the weapon's volatile magic, which is the Enchanting quest. And then the third one, which are runes to help the first two materials properly bind to the weapon, which is the Inscription portion of the quest. So to start things off, we'll start off with the Leatherworking portion, which will eventually require you to create the Symbiotic Glowspore Grip. Now, this is arguably the longest taking portion of this quest chain. At first, you're sent to a centaur in Onaran Plains, and he will ask you to collect 200 shadowed dream leaves. Now, these can only be acquired through doing Super Blooms, which is an event in the Emerald Dream that occurs every single hour. I would recommend doing this at the same time you're doing the other parts, as this is, well, as said, the most lengthy part of it all, and it took me about 10 Super Blooms before I had all the shadowed dream leaves. Now, Shadow Dream Leaves are provided through the Dream Troves that you can get during the Super Bloom, also by killing the final boss of the Super Bloom, and the one-time weekly cash will also give you some Shadow Dream Leaves. You can actually increase the amount of Shadow Dream Leaves you acquire by 50%. Now, how this works is as follows. The to-be wielder of Fyr'Alath will receive so-called Tattered Dream Leaves during the first Super Bloom they do, and the following Super Blooms, by the way. That is an item that can be used on any party member. Using it will give that party member a quest that requires them to pretty much fully complete the Super Bloom as well. In essence, by handing in that quest, the party member will obtain a so-called Restored Dream Leaf, which can be used on you. You're actually able to use the Tattered Dream Leaf on yourself, which is what I did, and then I was just able to use that Restored Dream Leaf on myself. Now, this effect doesn't stack, and each person is only able to do this quest once. So once you've completed it and you've sort of put it on someone else, you can no longer do the quest for yourself. Keep that in mind. Now, after acquiring all 200 Shadow Dream Leaves, you head back to the Onaran Plains and you are given a prototype Dreamleaf Grip. Now, this is one of the items that is required to create Erden's Dreamleaf Grip. And you'll also get a recipe that will temporarily teach a max-skilled Dragonflight Leatherworker the recipe for the legendary component. Now, you will need more mats and, of course, a skilled Leatherworker to help you create this component. Now, alongside the grip, you'll need to have 400 Zarlek Glowspores, 3 Obsidian Cobra Skin, 5 Dreaming Essence, and 50 Mire Slush Hides. Now, you can gather these yourself, but I'm lazy and I bought them off the auction house. It was expensive. So after you've acquired everything, find a guildie, friend or random leatherworker who's willing to help you create the item. It has to be created through a crafting order, as the quest item you'll use for it is soulbound. Now I wanted to have this done quickly, so I just offered a tip of 100k. So once Erden's Dreamleaf Grip has been created, head back to the Centaur on Iron Plains, and he'll have one final quest for you, which is to test out the new grip. You have to use it 10 times, and there's a large likelihood you'll die. Using the grip will deal damage between 5 and 25% of your health every single second over the duration of 10 seconds. Now there is a bonus quest you can do. It'll simply require you to buy some extra materials, and that'll give you an item that will sort of nullify the damage 3 times. For the remaining, or including those 3, because honestly it's quite expensive, get yourself a pocket healer or try and use cooldowns to survive the effect. As a paladin, Shield of Vengeance saved me a lot of times, and I tried various things to see if they worked, if they could negate the damage, but I still died 4 times whilst doing it. But I didn't use a healer or anything, I did it on my own. And by the way, I tried, I'm a paladin, Divine Shield doesn't work. The grip simply does nothing then. So once the grip has been tested 10 times, you'll have completed this portion of the legendary quest chain. Then moving on to the enchanting portion, which will eventually lead on to create the concentrated Sulfic Vellum. Honestly, this is incredibly simple. So the first part of this quest chain is the easiest to complete by far. First you'll be sent to a Nightborne in Iron Plains, and she'll task you with acquiring 20 Radiant Flecks of Ash. As part of that quest, you'll receive an item that enables you to disenchant epics acquired in the Emerald Dream, and these disenchanted epics will then provide you with 1 to 3 Radiant Flecks of Ash per item, of course. You can only disenchant an epic once every 5 minutes. Now the easiest way to do this is by simply buying the Fallen Protector handguards from the Dream Warden's Renown vendor. You can find her in this central encampment in the Emerald Dream. Now this item costs 300 dragon supplies. In the best situation, if you get 3 Radiant Flecks per disenchanted epic, you'd need 2100 Dragon Isle supplies for this strategy. If you'd only get 1, you'd need 6000 Dragon Isle supplies. But it is incredibly unlikely. I think I received 3 multiple times myself. Besides that, I also used some items that I just got from the weekly quests, and that did the trick just as well. And I wouldn't worry about the Dragon Isle supplies too much, because you acquire quite a few through the super blooms you'll do for the Leatherworking event. So trust me, there's plenty. Now completing this quest will give you the prototype Order Vellum, which is another item that is needed to make the concentrated Sulfic Vellum. Now you are also given another recipe to temporarily teach an enchanter to make this legendary component. The Order Vellum has to be combined with 150 Awakened Fire, 100 Awakened Earth, 50 Awakened Order, and 200 Resonant Crystals. Once you've gathered all that, find yourself a max level enchanter, or, bribe a guildie, always works, and ask them to create the Sulfic Vellum for you through a crafting order. Now that you have that Sulfic Vellum, you'll have to test it for a total of 20 times. And once you've done that, you will need to finish the test with 10 random awakened materials. You'll only know that, which ones they are, once you have tested the Vellum. And then you have 5 minutes to acquire them and use them. Now, I bought them off the auction house. A stack of 10 cost me around 1.2k on average. You can do this every 5 minutes, and every time you do it, you will receive 5% quest progression. I've also heard of some strategies where people just buy an entire stack of 200 of awakened whatever, and then they'll use it once they're doing the quest and just sell the rest once they're done. But it's up to you what's the most efficient. Well, once that's done, you'll hand in the quest and you'll have finished the enchanting portion of the legendary quest chain. And then for the third and final profession portion, which is the inscription portion, which will eventually lead you to create the rune of shadow binding. For this portion, you'll be sent to a Night Elf in the Azure Archives in the Azure Span. She will task you with acquiring 50 Taut Tether Coil, which is an item that can drop from any rare or rare elite in the Emerald Dream. Now we have to use a so-called Tether Coil rune on each of these rares, which will allow them to drop the Tether Coil. Each rare can drop 1 to 3 of these. This item, so this rune, is incredibly buggy. and I've noticed that simply pressing ESC may even cancel out the effect of the rune. The effect is also removed upon being stunned. It also cannot be used in combat, but using the item will not trigger combat. Now I did kill some rares, but the most efficient way is definitely by heading to the Frenzy, which is another event in the Emerald Dream that occurs about twice per hour at 30 and 50 minutes in the hour. So you can, by the way, you can combine that with Super Blooms and you'll be busy all the time. Now anyways, during the Frenzy, a rare will spawn after killing a number of creatures. Especially in groups, this strategy is incredibly effective as the rare spawns quite fast, say every 2 to 3 minutes or so. And seeing as you can repeatedly kill the same rare for Tether Coil, you can just keep doing that. Once you're done, completing this quest will provide you with the prototype binding rune, which is one of the materials required for crafting Lydiara's binding rune. The further materials needed to craft the Lydiara's binding rune are 10 Shadow Flame Essence, 250 Cosmic Ink, and 50 runed Writhe Bark. Teach a friendly scribe the recipe, acquire all the mats, and send them a crafting order for Lydiara's binding rune. Now once that's been done, you will be asked to test the rune of Shadow Binding. To do this, you'll have to kill Gnarlroot, Igara the Cruel, and Volcaros in the Emerald Dream raid after having tethered yourself to these bosses by using the rune on them. This will actually give you a debuff. It'll slow your speed from anywhere between 0 to 15% depending on your distance from the boss. It apparently also has a chance to hinder your ability to move every 5 seconds, but honestly I tried to force it, but I couldn't get the slowing effect above 0% and I didn't notice my movement being hindered at all. Maybe it's impacted by having done it in LFR, but I'm not sure. I didn't test that part of the quest on a higher difficulty. Anyways, I would still recommend doing it on LFR regardless of it being impacted per difficulty, as LFR is incredibly easy and I was done in 20 minutes or so, ignoring the queue time. Once that quest has been added in, so once you've completed the 3 bosses with the tether, you will have completed the inscription portion of this quest chain. So then what is next? Because now you've completed all the 3 profession portions of the quest chain, you've acquired the 3 legendary components that are required to make Fyr'Alath readable, you can finally hand in the main quest at Edward in Thaldraszus again. He then sends you to the Obsidian Throne to recraft the axe. You try to wield it again, you fail once more, and then Rathian comes up with a theory that you need to have dominion over the weapon. After you agree with him, you will then enter a scenario in Eberus where you'll have to face the Echo of Fyr'Alath. And honestly, the fight is, in my opinion, rather easy, but it could very well depend on your gear. If you've got a lower item level, this fight could be fairly difficult to do. I've got no idea if it scales depending on your gear. I don't think it does. Anyways, there is a decent amount of damage you'll have to deal with. There's a lot of smaller adds to be AoE'd down, and there's big adds that have to be killed before they get their cast off. Killing all of those adds will fill a progression bar, and once the progression bar hits 100%, the Echo of Fyr'Alath will break out of his immunity bubble. You'll be able to deal damage to him. This progression bar will degrade over time, rather quickly by the way, and once it reaches 0, it's pretty much a repeat of the initial phase, so you'll then have to kill adds again in order to fill the bar and break him from his bubble again. Now, once the Echo of Fyr'Alath dies, you will see a very brief cutscene, how you acquired the Fyr'Alath, and you're very happy and you've got it. Cool. Now, I would say that overall this is a fairly intense quest chain. It took me approximately 13 hours of in-game time to complete, and honestly, especially the Super Bloom repeat became incredibly repetitive, as it seemed to take a lot longer to complete in comparison to the other 2 profession portions. Another shame is that the quest, and this is personal because I really like that kind of thing, but the quest, despite it being important and having some important characters present, it has 0 voice acting. And it just doesn't feel as grand and big in scale as, for example, Shadowborn was in Wrath of the Lich King. But yeah, that's just a personal preference, and not everyone will will dislike that. Now, in regards to gold, I'd say it is fairly expensive to do, though if you truly wanted to, you could gather pretty much all the materials yourself, as most of it drops from creatures all around the world. However, if you were to do that, it would definitely increase the amount of time spent on the quest chain. Now I decided to buy everything from the auction house, as I previously mentioned, I am lazy and I didn't want to wait. But it cost me quite a bit of money. So to round things up, I had to pay 37k for the leatherworking component in total. I had to pay 114k for the enchanting component and 96k for the inscription component. Then I also spent another 24k on the random awakened materials that are required for the second part of the enchanting portion. And of course, lastly, I was a bit of a generous boy and I decided to be tipping a lot of money for my crafters at 100k per craft. In total, I spent 570k gold on this Inquiry chest chain. But keep in mind, if you weren't tipping or just had friends do it for you for free, then you'd probably be done with spending 300k gold, maybe, max. Anyways, it is what it is. I've now finally acquired it. I'm happy with it. And I will be happy with it until I replace it with a decent questing item in the War Within. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you the next time. Bye bye.